Hey, welcome. I am so excited to have you here today, Mel, and to dive into our journey together. And for everybody listening, I am joined today by Melanie, one of my longtime clients, and we have worked together on and off for a couple years now on separate occasions as she has transitioned through many different phases of her life. And some of the highlights being, getting incredible results, losing over 20 pounds, completely recomping her physique at one point, have less fat, more shape, completely transforming her mindset and her approach to health and fitness, improving her fertility, which led her to having a beautiful baby girl. So much to dive into. But before we get started, I'd love to hear a little bit from you and just, let the listeners know who you are and, a little bit more about yourself.
Quick pause before we dive into the rest of this video. If you are a woman who's been putting in the work, but you feel stuck in your body, with your performance, in your results, and you feel like you're struggling to balance your career, your personal life, and your fitness goals, this is for you. If you're looking for a smarter and more sustainable approach to losing fat, building muscle, and actually feeling your best, one that works with your hormones, your metabolism, and your lifestyle, then click the link below and book a free call. I'd love to help you build your best body and optimize your health without the burnout. Now let's get into it.
Yeah, sure. As Sam said, my name is Melanie. We have been working on and off, I think almost 5 years now.
I think it was the beginning of the
Um,
pandemic and we had
yeah,
just started. Yeah.
just started and it was navigating, all of that. I've always been, pretty active. I played sports growing up and I've always been either, in the gym lifting weights, doing classes, all that sort of stuff. And then I, slowly decided to step by step touch base with a trainer or coach. We like to say coach. Um, Trust me. And then it went, we did like little programs, 3 months and then 6 months, and now we're here. But it's been awesome. It's been the best decision I have made fitness wise.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love to hear that. That makes me happy. But let's dive into a little bit more as to why that is the case, right? So, before we get into all of the amazing progress that you saw, I'd love to kind of start on digging a little bit deeper into like where you were before that. So, where were you at in your journey, like when we first met, right? Mentally, physically, what was that looking like? And like, what were your goals at that time period?
So right when we started, everything was, yes, aesthetic based, um, heavily concentrating on the scale. What's the number? What's the number? What's the number? Always expecting myself to be a certain number. Whether that was like 150 pounds, 155, giving
Mm.
myself, oh, maybe 160 for muscle, really focusing on what I thought was important is, being a certain number, age and for my height, etc. And I was heavily into the keto diet.
Yes.
I had been doing keto uh, from like the mid 2019. And then when I joined you 2020, I was in the heart of it, and that was challenging because here I come like putting all my eggs in the keto basket, thinking, it's going to solve all my problems, going to get nice and skinny, but don't worry, I could still exercise, like it's fine. I just want your help, but we just can't do A, B, C, or D.
Yeah. You're like, so I want to hire you, but like these are my conditions. And I'm like, this isn't usually how this works.
Yeah, that was the best part. Like when you fill out like your intake questionnaire and it's like, any restrictions? I'm like, yes, I can't have any carbs. I cannot have any sugar. I can only have like 20 net carbs. I can't do this. I can't do this. So, um, like I said, really, focusing on that aesthetic and really heavy into like the diet culture, the mainstream diet
Yeah.
culture. And then
Yeah, I think I
it
also remember at the
spiraled.
time, like anything over like the idea of eating more than 1,400 calories a day, you were like, absolutely not.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that's it. And it was, looking back, it's like trust the process, trust the process, trust the coach, trust the coach. She knows what she's talking about. And then for me to be told like, no, you need to eat, I was like, but I am, but I just don't want to eat more. I don't need to, my thoughts, I don't need to eat more to lose weight.
Hmm.
That that's opposite. That doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So once we started and I matured out of that mindset, huge, huge difference. So
Yeah, for
it was
sure.
great.
And that was the first time that we worked together. And then, we had worked together again later on. And I think if I remember correctly, I mean, at this point, you had come around a little bit because you had seen like what I was saying actually worked. So you had trusted, the process a little bit more. But I think more of your goals at that point in time were one, to recomp your body a little bit more, build some more muscle, have like a better shape. But that was paired with the health side of things because you really wanted to have a baby, right?
Yeah, because doing keto and being so restrictive, um, I kept, it's like you have the blinders on and you don't want to listen to anybody. You just start, everyone was saying, oh, that's not maintainable. That's not long term. And of course, me being stubborn, I was like, no, I can do it. It's no problem. People do it all the time. And then you get to a point where I realized like my mental health was not in a good place when it came to food.
Hmm.
I Anyone that knows me knows I am a foodie, true and true. And the super strict lifestyle that keto um required, well, the type of keto I was doing, like I was scared to eat. I was always constantly thinking, okay, I'm going to a birthday party. I'll have a small piece of cake. I'll drink like 50 glasses of water. That'll cancel it out. Don't even look at the chips. Don't even think about pop. Maybe they'll have sugar. Like you're just constantly in a
Yeah.
state of like anxious eating thoughts. And that's not how you should
Like
live. And
food
then,
fear.
oh, beyond, beyond. And then when, I started looking more into like your different clients and their results and really like looking at what you were saying and then doing my own like research on the side, she knows what she's talking about. Time to, get over it and really just try. Just try. And here we are.
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously, we were able to improve your health. And then you had a baby, you're pregnant, you had a baby. And then now we're back again. And now we're focusing on kind of your postpartum, like bounce back journey. So
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
phases, lots of
So
beginnings to
many,
once.
so
Yeah.
many phases. And I think the biggest thing too is, a lot of people think, okay, I'll just listen to the trainer and she'll tell me what I have to eat, how I have to eat. And all that's going to do is cool. I'll lose weight, I'll build muscle, and Bob's your uncle, but that's not it. Like there are so many layers to it, right? Like when we started working together, every I was, I was done keto, so I wasn't in a good spot health wise. I was binging, I wasn't, really eating the right things. And then I got married and then we tried to have children and I had two miscarriages. I thought my body was, in a healthy state. I was eating, I was, exercising, moving my body, cool, like I'll go to the gym, I'll lift a little bit. Okay, I'll go do the Stairmaster. Like I thought I was doing the right things.
Yep.
And then when we started to work together and you said, no, we really need to focus on what you're putting into your body, that's when everything changed. Everything changed for me in terms of my health. I always tell people that before I got pregnant and we started working together, I was in the best shape of my life. And, for a lot of people, they think that's just you carved out, perfect, lean and toned. Um, but for me, that wasn't necessarily the case at all. Yeah, I had lost weight. The number had gone down. But like you said, the recomp in my body, it was nothing like it used to be at all.
Yeah.
I had my curves, I had built a lot of muscle mass, but it
Hmm.
wasn't like all the people think and are so scared, bodybuilder-esque, not
Yeah,
even
no, not at
close to
all.
that. Yeah, so it was a huge difference. And then I got pregnant and had a successful pregnancy. And now my daughter is going to be 16 months tomorrow.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, crazy.
Literally the cutest thing. And then now you're just trying to navigate that, right? And be able to maintain everything that, you've
Yeah,
learned over the years and maintain that in the new challenges of being a mom and having less time and needing to focus on, balancing your career once you go back to work, your daughter, and your own well-being, right?
yeah. And that's really, I think that's the biggest thing that holds a lot of women back in their postpartum is that constant balancing act. And don't get me wrong, like
Yeah.
in the beginning, for me, there was no way. Like, there's no way. It takes time, right? Everything. at its own pace. And when you're ready and you can kind of lay out a foundation and some semi sort of routine for yourself, that's when you'll be able to really reap the benefits. And I think that my daughter has reaped the benefits tenfold. I'm have a lot more energy now that we've been back working together.
Hmm.
My sleep has gotten a lot better, and we know the biggest thing, sleep is very hard um for parents, and
100%.
being able to, kind of correct that, um, huge, huge difference, and eating properly, we're constantly like eating on the go, just snacking. Okay, let me just finish what she's eating. Like, we don't want to waste the food. Let me just grab something really quickly.
Yep.
But as long as you can just take a moment in your spare time instead of doom scrolling, me, and just lay out a plan, then you can get what you need done, but don't expect it to happen overnight.
No, it's like anything, right? And it takes time. And I think that's another thing that people struggle so much with is the all or nothing mindset, right? This idea that like it needs to be 100% perfect or there's no point in doing it all. And it's like, I don't know if you've seen the trend in going around right now on Reels or TikToks or whatever, where people will do that with other things. So it's like, oh, you spill your drink a little bit. Let me just dump the whole thing out. Or like, oh, I drop a piece of laundry. Let's just dump the whole laundry and like go rewash the entire load, right? It's like it doesn't make logical sense. But when you put it like into a fitness perspective, like people just that's just the way that the natural human mind does because like that's the way that it works because it's trying to protect you from failure, right? So it's
Exactly.
constantly trying to keep you in that comfort zone. So it's like it's easier to just not try at all than to try and like it not go perfectly.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, you might have like one week, myself included, like I had 2 weeks where everything was prepped, laid out perfect, containers, grab and go, grab and go. And then, the next week, yeah, I may have cooked, but it was just sitting in bulk, not pre-weighed, not,
Yep.
easy for me to just grab and eat. So thinking, oh, well, it's already just sitting there. Let me just eat how much ever I want will make it balance out after. Like you said, it doesn't make sense. So.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, obviously, we've talked a little bit about you being in a couple different phases, but overall, throughout your journey, what would you say were the biggest, either like problems or challenges that you had navigating things on your own, like before we transform that together? Or like the biggest, I mean, I know you've talked a lot about keto so far, but the myths or kind of like misconceptions you felt into the trap of believing?
Okay, so to start, yeah, with keto, just because, I mean, I don't really know if it's like a thing anymore, to be honest.
Keto, I
Um,
think it still is
yeah,
to some degree. I think it's less like keto and it's more just fear of carbs.
yeah. So that fear of carbs was the biggest thing, the ultimate and
Like, oh, I'm
omega,
gonna sniff a donut and gain 10 pounds.
the ultimate and omega misconception in terms of, you know, fitness and eating. So I was deathly afraid of carbs. And the whole mentality behind it being very restrictive,
Hmm.
that was very hard. That was a struggle that I had. And then moving forward after we stopped, with the keto and I started to really listen and I jumped in, the biggest thing I learned and the biggest thing that you helped me with, and I feel like I'm gonna always like just always be reaching out about it, it's definitely how to eat. A lot of people, it sounds like, what do you mean how to eat? Just eat the food. Just
Yeah, yeah,
look at
yeah.
look at the charts. You have this much carbs, this much veg and fruit, and this much protein. Yeah, obviously to an extent. And am I going out there every day with my food scale to, the keg, or am I taking it to no, you're not doing that.
No,
But when you lay that foundation and you really take the time to understand, okay, this is how many calories you're not supposed to have, but this is how many calories you're going to
it's
start
gonna
with,
support your body with. Yeah,
support your body, this is how we're breaking it down in the proper macronutrients. That's when I saw, like, wow, it really, really does matter. And especially the protein. Like, a
yeah,
lot of people just think, let me chug back like 15 protein shakes a day and, my glutes will grow and I'll have a carved out back or whatever. But you need to have like whole foods that are your
100%.
protein source. And that was shocking for me. Like, the impact of it on not just, my body, like my muscles or whatever the case is, but like on my nails, on my skin, on my hair, on my sleep. I was shocked. I was shocked at how significant that is. And
Yeah, like literally
also
like transformed everything. Like your quality of
everything,
life improved.
everything. And how you might think like how much ever protein you're eating, like, cool, I'm having like 3 boiled eggs. I've hit it. No, no, you really have to take the time to see how much protein is in each food source, and you
Mhm.
will reap the benefits. I was blown away. The food thing gets me every time. I feel like
Yeah.
that's
I think two things that people really struggle with that, and I think that like you were in this place in the beginning is one, like you said, the mindset. I think like when you stop switching, and I had a conversation literally with a girl yesterday about this, is like she's very hesitant to do food tracking because she comes from a restrictive mindset. And when you're looking at food tracking from a restrictive lens, it's really unhealthy and creates a lot of unhealthy food, like an unhealthy food relationship. But when you switch your mindset and start looking at it as a tool of data of how to like fuel your body properly, it completely changes your approach. Because if you're looking at it as a tool of like making sure I'm eating enough calories, not restricting my calories, making sure I'm eating enough macronutrients, but also micronutrients. Like, am I getting enough whole foods? Am I splitting these up in the right way? Am I balancing my meals? Like, all of that. Like, tracking your food is what gives you that data. And like you said, teaches you the foundation so that later you don't have to track every single morsel of food because you know how to piece together a meal that's going to support your body. You know how to piece together a whole day of eating intuitively without having to track everything because you have gone through the educational process of learning about it, right? If you never do that, how are you ever expected to know how to eat properly, right? Like we don't have a class in school that teaches you that.
um,
So,
100%. And I think too, it's, you know, when every time I've said to somebody, yeah, like I'm back with Sam, and the thing that they always say is, oh, so you get a meal plan. Like she tells you what to eat.
mhm,
And when I tell them, no, you don't get a meal plan, and she doesn't dictate what you eat. It, you have the agency to pick what you eat. It's
mhm.
just she teaches you how to eat. And when it's framed like that, they're kind of like, oh, because I've fallen for it before, jumped in with trainers where it's like, okay, have a can of tuna, have 2 eggs, have an apple slice,
Egg
and a protein
whites
shake.
for breakfast, a protein shake, rice cakes
Yeah,
with
peanut
peanut
butter.
butter. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Like
bodybuilding staples.
all those foods are great, but like you can have them in, you don't have to have it so restrictively in
Yeah,
such like a moderation. You eat what you want.
yeah,
You make it work. You just take the time, make it work. And I don't feel restricted in any sense. And I was coming from somewhere where it was just like, okay, I need a huge block of cheese. I need like 17 chicken thighs and like a pile of broccoli. And I'm good.
yeah. Yeah, I think the problem too is that meal plans, while initially they may take the stress off of having that decision fatigue, because in the beginning is going to be the hardest part, like learning any new skill. If you don't know, you don't know, right? So it takes time to learn. And there are going to be those moments where maybe it takes a little bit more time to do your meal prep, or maybe like it's a little bit more frustrating because like you don't have the answers right away. But like any
Mhm.
other skill, right? It's like learning a language, learning how to do math, like it takes time. And then once you know it, you're set and you have so much less stress and you have so much more flexibility, which allows you more food freedom, right? Whereas like if I give you a meal plan, okay, cool. For the first 2 weeks, you're like, this is sick. I don't have to think about what I want to eat. I feel great. But then what happens when your best friend's birthday comes up or you're so sick of eating those same 5 foods in rotation that
Yeah.
like you want to cry, right? Or
Yep.
your time with that coach ends, then what? Are you going to eat that same meal plan for the rest of your life? Like, probably not.
Yep. And I remember coming to you with those kind of questions, and you would say the same thing. Okay, and then what? And then you're gonna fail. It's going to fail. And I think that's a lot of what people don't want to hear is it's gonna stop working, and it's gonna stop working for you, and you're gonna go back to square one, if not worse. And that's something, a lot of people don't like hearing. And I remember in like the initial phases of us working together, one of the questions was, kind of coach do you like? Do you like are you okay with like sugar coating? Do you want it like as it is? Do you want a little bit of both? So I think that when you take the time, like you said, you take the time to learn, that's where the change will really come in. Everything is patience.
Yep. Yep, I totally agree. And I think that, a common problem is like yo-yoing, right? Like people
Mhm.
going from like these extreme diets that you and I are talking about, like whether that's really low calories, whether that's cutting carbs out completely or cutting food groups out completely, whether that's just going in waves of being really motivated and committed to then completely falling off. But it's just this same cycle where it's like you get an inch, but then you revert back a mile, and then you get an inch, and you keep going through that. But I think people keep going through that because it's somewhere in subconsciously it's safe for them, even though they're not getting the results. It's like they know the outcome, they know that they're going to get a little bit of progress, and if they just like force themselves to be super restrictive, like okay, they'll feel good temporarily, and that
Yeah.
temporary dopamine hit of feeling good is like enough, instead of like actually taking the time to like rewire all of your, like the way that you think about doing things, the way that you do things, and like you said, essentially learning like how to live your whole life.
No, it's true. And that's, they'll go through, let's say, like a 3 month stint with somebody with a trainer and get the results, right? You get those quick results and you're like,
Mhm.
I'm in the best shape of my life, fantastic. And then your time with that trainer ends. And, you know, I've been guilty of it. You're like, hey, I'll just keep what I learned or what I
Mhm.
was doing and maybe just tweak it a little bit. I can carry this over, no problem. It stops working. Like it's not gonna be as effective. And then you just end up being like 10 times more upset. Oh my gosh, I wasted my time. I wasted my money. This person's work it doesn't work. It's not effective. And then it's just one big vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I think a big problem too is like in a lot of these short-term quick fix approaches is that one, like it doesn't actually change your foundational habits in 90 days. Like I'm sorry, anybody tells you that you're going to overhaul your life in 3 months is lying to you. Like it takes longer of consistency because like you said earlier, you're going to have weeks that go really well, and you're going to have weeks there where like shit hits the fan, and you need to build up those mental reps time over time over time to really build a solid foundation. And most of my clients like see the most success in like a 9 to 12 month
Yeah.
period, because we've been able to go through the process of like building the foundations, really focusing on the aesthetic changes, and then bringing them back to like a healthy maintenance amount. Like so many people just leave their clients in a deficit and just leave them there, and then like, oh, I'm going to wash my hands clean of you because like you're not paying me anymore, and they don't actually
Yeah.
teach them how to move into a more like maintenance lifestyle phase. And it's like,
Mhm.
if you look at you when you first met me, you were scared to eat over 1400 calories, right? But now we have you losing weight on over 2000 calories
Yeah,
because
we're
we've
at
taken the time to
2300.
build your metabolism back up, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, and I
yeah.
remember when we started, even like before I had my daughter, we started at 2500 and I was like, okay, sure, Sam. Sure, like I guess that'll work. And then I remember I was being a little impatient. Like we got to maybe like week 2 and I'm like, so are we gonna like is it going to
Drop these
stay that high? Like,
down.
how does it work? And then, the best thing about you, one of the best things is that you take the time to really educate your clients on why. You're not just dictating, this is what we're doing, this is what I need you to follow. Um, and then we'll talk about it in like 4 weeks. No, when I have a question and I ask it, you take the time, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times I re-ask the question in different ways
Yeah.
to answer it and answer it fully so that I understand the why in what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important because to me, not only is the client going to be more likely to actually do what I'm asking them if they understand the purpose and realize like there is value in this, it's
Mhm.
also gonna stick with them longer term, like long after they're not working with me anymore, because they understood how and when to apply it and like why they were doing it, instead of just like, oh, somebody told me to do this, but I don't understand how I'm supposed to apply it myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then did you have any misconceptions around like exercise? Like, was it like, did you think you should be doing more cardio? Was it like that you were scared to lift heavier weights? Like in the journey, is there anything that you ever felt like you had any kind of like challenges on the training side of things?
A little bit, yes and no. So I was always into like the cardio aspect, like whether that was, going for runs or, living on the Stairmaster, or taking like a spin class. But when we started, like we would have like maybe one or two cardio days,
Mm.
but really focusing on lifting was super important. And I was always kind of struggling, more so questioning how to progressively overload. That was the biggest thing. Like, okay, I think I can increase the weight. I think I can do more reps. And then I would increase the weight, do more reps, and then realize that, oh, my form is terrible. Let me go back. Or I would
Yeah.
realize, okay, this hurts, and then complain, Sam, I don't like this exercise. No, let's get rid of it. And then you would just be like, no, let's drop the weight down again because you see everything that we're doing. Let's
Yep.
drop the weight back again and really slow down and then let me know how it feels and then stick with that rep range and this weight range for another week and then maybe move forward.
Yeah. And instead of just like getting rid of anything that you don't like or seems hard, being like, okay, how do we approach this so that you get better at it opposed to just avoiding it? Yes, for sure. Okay. And then, so the next question that I have for you, kind of just in this before area of getting an idea of kind of where you were coming from, is what made you reach out to me specifically? And then also, was there anything that almost prevented you from signing up or like was a block for you in terms of being scared to take the leap?
The biggest thing, when I was on Instagram and, looking at your page and stuff, was of course the specific focus on women as your clients.
Yeah.
Um, that is a huge thing. And, it's not to bash any male trainers, and that's not to say that they don't know, what they're doing. They don't know how to, get results for women, not at all. But I mean, obviously, you can connect more with a trainer in so many ways. And you really, took the time to educate yourself on a lot of things in terms of women's health. So whenever I would have a question about something and then you would tie it back and you still tie it back to this day, even more than before. Now it just all makes so much more sense. So, it was definitely seeing that almost 90%, I think, of your clients are women.
Yeah, I think I've
And
only ever had one male client in my entire career. So,
yeah. And then seeing how, you take away you took away a lot of like the loud noise of training. Like you really focus on the little things,
hmm
um, that, you would never, me as a customer would never really think about. Yes, sleep, stress management, your gut health, all of those things, taking the time to really reset, and rethink how to train. That made me want to work out with you. And then the hesitancy was like everyone, it's always the white elephant in the room, money, 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 money. How
yep,
long is this going to take? Is her stuff really going to work? Are these really her client? It's all those
yep.
things that, things nowadays people are always questioning. Is this real? Is that a real client? And you just have
Especially when we
to,
live in like such a digital age now, it's like you never know.
you never know. And you just have to just trust. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, yes, I trusted you. You just have to. And even if that takes, reaching out to somebody randomly that, you may have posted on your page, like to
hmm
get, that vouch, the validation, like, no, she's a real trainer and these are my real photos. Like,
I'm not going
it
to just
really
take your money
works.
and run.
Yeah. Right. And people have been burned by that before.
100%.
Um, but I decided to, reach out. I filled out the questionnaire and I'm like, the most that she's gonna do is give me something that I agree with or I'm not gonna agree with, and the most that I'm gonna do is say yes or say no. When you really break it down, like it's not one big, long, hard situation. And I decided, okay, let me just fill out that questionnaire, see what we get, and then
Take the first
we had
step.
our yeah, we jumped right in, and then we had our first little call, and here we are,
I know. You're like, here we are 5 years later.
right?
Yeah, and I think that like you said, right, it's also easy when you don't like with something like a health and fitness coach, it's not a tangible outcome right away. Like you're not going into the store and paying for something and leaving with your item, right? Like when you go into the store and buy a new cell phone, you leave with your big ticket item. Whereas with something like health and fitness coaching, you sign up, but you still have to do the work. You still have to like, put in the time and the effort and like wait for, those compounded gains to come through later on. And I think that that's really hard for a lot of people to conceptualize and pull the trigger on, right? Out of fear, out of whether that's fear of failure, fear of judgment, whatever it might be. Like you said, being let down in the past. So, I think it is really important when people are making that decision to do their due diligence. Like, like you said, ask around, get some information from their past clients, get on a call with that person, speak to them, get to know them. Like, there's nothing worse than like signing up for an interactive kind of like service experience like that and then it not being what you thought it was going to be at all.
100%. And I think too, one of the biggest things that I kept thinking in my mind is, okay, this is all online.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, when I talk about working with you, they're like, oh, so like she'll come to the gym. I'm like, no, no, she's living La Vida Loca on the beach in Mexico while I'm here hanging out in the winter. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, so she doesn't. I'm like, no, but the way that the program is built and the way that Sam is invested in her clients, you would swear like she's in the gym with you when I like just the other day, I remember I was exercising and I was leaving comments on the
I
app that
bet.
we use. And then you're like, oh, love this real time update. And I was like, oh, here she is. She's here.
Like commenting on your
Yeah.
comments. I know I was
Yeah.
laughing about that. Yeah, and I think that like, a lot of the people unfortunately when you don't have the experience of doing both, like when you actually have the experience of doing in-person personal training versus working with more of like a fully like a holistic program of like a lifestyle coach, it is very different because with person like because I've and I'm in the industry, like I've done both, right? And it's like I used to get so frustrated working as a personal trainer because I get 2-hour sessions with you a week where like sure I get to like run your butt into the ground in a workout, but then like what about
Mhm.
everything else? That's only 10% of the picture, right? It's like then I
Yeah.
don't talk to you for a week and you go eat whatever, you're sleeping like crap, you're stressed out, you're not hitting your steps, you're dehydrated, you're not taking any supplements. And then I see
Yeah.
you a week later and it's like we're not making any progress because I don't have a hand in anything else. Whereas, sure, like maybe I'm not in the gym with you, like literally overseeing you, you boot camp yelling at you, but as long as the program is put together with enough explanation and guidance that you know what you need to do in that hour, the guidance that you get on the other 90% to me outweighs not having that person in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then that's another thing, that I think would lead people to be a little hesitant. Like you said, you work with a trainer in the gym maybe 2 times a week, and you're not seeing results as quickly as you anticipated. So then they're like, oh, working with a trainer doesn't work.
Yep, 100%.
And
And they
then,
kind of write off the whole experience.
yeah, exactly. And I never had any experience working with an in-person trainer, like, committing 100%. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it would be fine, but I think that this platform, it's amazing.
Yeah, I would say my clients, my coaching clients, get way better results than my in person training clients ever did, just because, like I said, I have the freedom and the flexibility to have so much more input on things and so much like when you with coaching, you basically have a coach in your back pocket 24/7, right? You can text them and ask them questions, you do check ins, so you have accountability, and you're getting feedback on your training, your nutrition, and your lifestyle habits, assuming you have a good coach, right?
Right.
With a personal trainer, like you're getting the work all you're getting out of that entire thing that I just said is the workouts. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I mean
And
it can be kind of a mind um trick, I think, because you're like, oh, but it's in person. I feel like I have a stronger connection. But I think it really also comes down to the person that you're working with too.
absolutely. I agree. Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we've talked a little bit about what specific steps we took to overcome those challenges and kind of like the approach that we took that was different than what you were doing initially. But just to kind of maybe like highlight that, what would you say are like two or three of the most impactful shifts or like biggest things that you've taken away from our time together?
Definitely would be, I mean, I hate to be so cliche, but like just trusting the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't everyone, especially nowadays, we want that instant gratification, instant results. Why haven't I lost 20 pounds in 2 months? Why don't I have a BBL looking bum? Like everybody wants the quick fix, right? And
Yep, 100%.
taking the time, just do, like, just do what you're told in the time that you're told it will take. And as long as you do your best, it will happen for you.
Hmm.
So definitely trusting the process. Also, the shift in you don't have to give 100, not you don't have to, but giving 150% every single day is impossible
Hmm.
and not realistic. And I love that post that you did about burnout culture. And, everyone's been doing it. It's like, oh, I talk to myself, like my teenage self or my younger
Yeah.
self. And when you did it and I was reading, I'm like, oh, it's me. Like, you just think like you have to go, super hard at the gym. You got to be super sore. You have to be dripping buckets. You have to hit every single macro at 100%. I need 12 hours of sleep. I need to, live a totally stress-free life. A lot of those things are not realistic.
Hundred
Life's all the time. More so for me now than ever.
percent.
And it's like, no, as long as you try your best, give everything you can, even if that's at 80%, even if it's at like 60%. You have other days where I don't want to use the term make it up, but you have the other
It
days
averages
where
out.
you can go hard, you can do it, but you
Yep.
thinking you have to do everything at maximum capacity all the time, every day, is what is going to deter you. So just take the minute to, do as best as you can.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, something that I like to say to people commonly is that 100% effort doesn't mean 100% adherence all the
Yeah.
time. You can
Yeah.
give 100% effort, but that looks different every single day depending on what you have going on in your life, your like, what commitments you have going on, even what phase of your cycle that you're in. Like, when you are just in the beginning of your cycle and you're at peak energy and you're in your follicular phase or your ovulation phase, like you can be a little energizer bunny along assuming that everything else is going along the way that it should be, like your sleep is there and all that. And then in your luteal phase, like you might feel like you got hit by a train, right? So it's like just getting up and like going for a walk and eating 3 healthy meals for the day is giving 100%. It's just like that's you listening to your body and giving what you can, right? So I think that that's so, so important. And I think that unfortunately we live in this era where, of course, it's so, so helpful to have social media where we get access to information and learn things. But we're so overstimulated by people showing their highlight reel that we compare ourselves and think like, if we're not doing this 3 hour morning routine where I'm meditating and making my green juice and getting my sunlight exposure and then going for a walk and then journaling, like, then what's the point? I'm just gonna not even bother. And like, I feel like unfortunately, influencers have like almost made things worse because they've set this really unrealistic expectation. And if you don't hit that, it's like, oh, you have a cortisol problem or like you're not doing enough.
Yeah. And now more than ever for me, being postpartum, the impact that social media had, I want to say had because I'm trying my best to, not really dive in, but postpartum and social media expectations, it is and was very, very hard and very exhausting.
Yep.
You know, there is this whole, on one side of the spectrum, you see all the posts like bounce back, bounce back. If you're breastfeeding, don't worry about it. You're going to drop the weight, eat what you need, or, you'll lose all your baby weight right away. Or the other side of it is, no, you had a baby. Take a moment, give yourself grace. So the constant balancing act in
Yeah.
between those two,
And like
very
contradictory
hard. Oh,
messages.
so hard all the time. It's like, even, honestly, I find myself sometimes to this day thinking like, okay, it's been 16 months. What's going on? Like, where are you? What's happening? And I saw something the other day and I was like, yeah, makes sense. Like, I, y- for me, like, I just stopped comparing my body and everything pre-pregnancy because
Yeah, so much
everything,
changes.
everything changes, and it's not going to come back.
Yeah,
I
and I
mean, as hard as that sounds, and as like maybe harsh as that sounds, everything has changed in my life. I'm not going to ever be how I was when I was 30, 32, 31, 32.
mhm.
You know, you have to have the I struggle with it, but realizing like just got to do what you got to do. Be patient. Eventually the change will come, but you're not going to be 100% back to your pre-baby body or pre-baby fitness.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that like, we commonly like I don't know if you ever see this, but people will be like, "Oh, it's you versus you. Like don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to like yourself, like past versions of yourself." But I'm like, even past versions of yourself doesn't make sense to me because you're never going to be that same person again. Like the whole purpose of your life is to grow and evolve and change and learn and like become better. So yes, like you can evolve into a better version of you postpartum, but that doesn't mean that that's going to equate to who you were before that, right? It's even like, I'll speak to women and they'll be late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, and they'll want to get back to their body when they were like 22. And I'm like, you realize that that doesn't even make any sense, right? Like,
Yeah,
you've changed so much hormonally. And as you've aged, that like you should want to be the best version of you in the next year from now, regardless of what you looked like in the past, right? Like you just rebuild
100%.
a better you.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I totally hear that. And, it's just like crazy, right? Because even though you're now on this postpartum journey and you have certain goals that are reflective somewhat of goals that you've had in the past, you're still different, right? Like it's like, you still have a weight loss goal and you've been able to lose weight in our first month of working together again, which is great. And, you have your goal to like have your butt look nice and like, you've been noticing some gains there. So,
Yes.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that you want your body to replicate what it looked like before. It's different because you're different.
Exactly. And if I was to have if having that mindset to be so rigid and so strict, it would only make working out and seeing the results I'm getting, honestly, probably a deterrent
Hmm.
because it would turn into, okay, yeah, I've lost 5 pounds, but like when we started, I lost like seven. Or
Yeah.
okay, it's been 2 months. Yeah, my glutes look a little bit more defined. My back, is not as broad, but when I started working with Sam, like I was a lot more cut at this stage. So
Yep.
you're right,
So you feel
constantly
like you're never
comparing,
doing enough.
never, never, exactly. So like you said, living in the mindset of you want to be the best version of you right now, super, super important. You have to just you work with what you have. Work with what you have because what you had is not you can't get it back right now.
Yep.
But
And
it's not there.
you're turning into you version 2 or 3.0. We don't want to go back to version 1.0.
No, no, exactly.
Well, while we're talking about kind of like evolving and, self growth, what would you say are some of the external, like physical, tangible results that you have achieved throughout, this entire journey? I know we've talked a lot about that already, but just to kind of, condense.
Probably um a lot of, there's the whole big hype around self-care, 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 self-care. Um and of course it's very important
Hmm.
and it, takes many different shapes or forms. And I think that the biggest thing for me is just noticing how much doing something that I really like, whether big or small, does have a huge impact on, my mood and my stress levels. And then being able to carry that feeling over, let's say, into a workout.
Hmm.
Like for example, yesterday was, I went on a walk with my daughter and it was really nice. It took a long time, but it was really nice. And then after that, I came home and I cooked and, I felt a lot more, ready to go, energized. And then I went and, I did a quick little workout at the gym. So doing like the little things for yourself, the self-care, definitely important, just seeing how it impacts everything else. Um, Sleep for sure. Um, Notice that that has helped me tremendously. I mean, other than, just because you're tired and you need to sleep,
Hmm.
really impacts your results.
Hmm.
because like we were talking about, that 100% mentality all the time, 7 days a week. No, we don't believe in a rest day. Um, Being able to rest, whether that's
Yeah.
getting a good
Like
8 hours
intentionally
sleep,
and being okay with it.
intentional resting, yeah, and not feeling like, oh my God, I'm wasting my day. Like, no, like it's okay to like just stop, do the things that you have to catch up on. Maybe, it's like, oh yeah, let me go and grab that, do that quick load of laundry. Let me run to the grocery store really quick.
Hmm.
Like, you don't have
To
to.
have more like get up and go kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That has definitely helped the sleep and intentional rest. Because then when you go back, well, for me personally, and then when I go back to the gym, I feel like 10 times more energized and ready to go because I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to kill a workout. And then my body's obviously rested.
Yep. And then you're going to get better results because you're not overstressing your body and your physiological stress is being kept in check. Yeah, for sure. So you've noticed big mood improvement, um, better energy levels, better sleep quality, that translating into all other areas of your life and making you feel more productive and more energized, and feeling like you're kind of just like taking care of yourself, making yourself a priority more. So all of those are amazing. And then would you say that you noticed that like throughout this entire process, obviously, like we said, we've had different parts of your journey, that being able to achieve your physical results in a way that's maintainable has like how has that improved your quality of life and your confidence?
Yeah, so tenfold. Overall, yeah, tenfold. But super important, like you said, right? When a coach takes the time to explain to you how things will carry on or carry into your time after working with them, I noticed that 100% because when we were working together and I was pregnant and I was exercising while pregnant and stuff, our for lack of a better word, our contract time ended, but I was still able to take what we were doing and still implement it in the gym, still implement it in my everyday week while
Mm-hmm.
working and being 8 months pregnant and being in the gym and doing the things that you told me to really focus on, including food. I mean, obviously here or there I had more than one yummy snack for the belly, but you know carrying
You
it
kept things
over
in
in.
moderation and you felt confident with you being able to handle that.
And that's the thing, and then, coming out of pregnancy, being able to, I mean, obviously, certain women can do it, be active during their pregnancy and stuff like that, but being able to carry, the active lifestyle over
Mhm.
into the early parts of my postpartum definitely helped a lot
Yep.
because I would be like, "Okay, relax, like, you don't have to go for a walk today, like, you just take a minute, rest. You need the rest now, Melanie, more than ever, so just take the rest. You don't need to go on, like, a 4-kilometer walk today, it's okay." Um, but that of course, that was just for me, like, I definitely took the self-care part of everything we learned and
Hmm.
applied it, in those early stages of postpartum, and then before I decided to sign up again officially, with you a month ago, I was still doing things. I was, making the
Hmm.
time to go to the gym. Am I going to the gym 7 days a week? No. I was making sure to try and get there or try and do a home workout, um, whether
Yeah.
that's 2 or 3 times a week.
And keeping
So,
things realistic to what you could commit to. Yeah, and
absolutely.
you also don't mentally burn out that way as well, right? It's like you're more committed to the longevity of the process because it doesn't feel like this like daunting looming chore that you always have to do.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the best way to describe it. It's like, "Oh, I have to move my body right now. Like, I have to do it." No,
Yeah,
like,
and I
it's
think I don't know if
okay.
you've like seen so many people will talk about like the I have to versus the I get to mentality, and I am totally on board with that. But I think that unfortunately sometimes when people like have this all or nothing mindset or are like, in this more mentality like we've been talking about,
Mhm,
it's really hard to switch into that I get to mindset because like
mhm,
there's no balance in your life. So it's like, how are you supposed to be grateful for something and appreciate something if you're constantly feeling guilty about like you have guilt associated with it and all these negative feelings associated with it, right? I feel like you have to like take a step back and like learn that less is more sometimes and finding that
mhm.
balance. And then you get to appreciate those things when you do them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously lots and lots of wins. We could be here all day discussing all of them. But I love all of those ones. I think the self-care piece, especially as we age, right? Like into your 30s and beyond, I think it's so important to take care of yourself because, obviously you're still an adult in your 20s, but you're not adulting the same way. And it's like once you get into your like late 20s, early 30s and beyond, your
Mhm.
adult life like usually hijacks the entirety of your day-to-day routine, right? And it's so hard sometimes to get out of that funk and to get back into a routine where you are prioritizing your best self and filling up your cup first so that you can fill all those other areas.
Yes, exactly. And I think, we see it. I mean, when I say we, I mean, I've seen it online all the time where it's like, oh, mothers, they always, they're doing everything they can with an empty cup. And I do agree to an extent. Yes. Yeah, you do. And for anyone that feels like I just can't do it, like I just don't have the capability to, cook for the week. I don't have the capability to go to the gym 3 times a week. I can't do it. That's where, taking the time to set up a plan so that you can fill your cup so that it
Get the
works for
help.
you and then eventually, yeah, and then eventually tweak it, obviously,
Hmm.
just because you do something right now in like, let's say 3 months, it doesn't mean you have to stick to that forever.
Yeah,
Eventually things will change, right? Maybe you'll be able to add another day of working out. It doesn't mean you have to go, to the gym. Maybe that could mean like an outdoor walk or something,
yeah,
or that
100%.
doesn't mean you have to cook for the month.
I
All
think
I
that's
mean,
something that's also really unfortunate is sometimes it's really hard for people, which I totally understand because like when you're stuck in the mud of your own mud, it's hard to see past that mud. But people don't realize the cyclical effect, right? It's like, most of the time people don't have the energy to take the step to do something for themselves because they're so drained from doing everything for everybody else. But they also don't realize that because they're not taking the time to do something for themselves first, that's why they don't have the energy. So it's like sometimes it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like sometimes you got to put a pause on doing everything for everybody else temporarily
mhm,
so that you can get yourself to that place where you're never going to be able to do it all, but you can better juggle what you're doing, right? And it's like, I'll talk to women who like can't even like say that they don't have time to like eat 3 meals in a day. And I'm like, or people who work so hard at their desk that they can't take a minute away from their desk to eat lunch and stuff like that, right? Where it's like,
mhm.
if you don't start having boundaries and doing a couple things for yourself to improve your health,
Then
you're gonna run yourself into the ground and eventually you're gonna be forced to take a step back, whether you want to or not.
I think too, one thing that goes hand in hand with that is the outside voices that
Mm-hmm.
impact, people's actions or lack of action.
100%.
And something I remember like you bringing up recently is the Mel Robbins let them theory, right? A lot
Yes.
of is I remember I would always think to myself, okay, what like I'm gonna be going to the gym like a lot more. I have to cook my own food. Like, what's that gonna look like? And let like you said, let them. Are people gonna say, why are you cooking 3 different meals, 2 different meals? Let them say it. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Are they gonna say, why are you going to the gym all the time? Why don't you take a rest day? Let them. You know what you're doing for yourself.
Yep.
And it's very hard because, it might come off as like being selfish or, being self-centered. And it's not that. It isn't that, just because you want to do something for yourself, it doesn't make you a selfish person.
100%.
And I've learned that through therapy, but also through working with you, right? Like just do it. Like just do it. Like
Yes.
just do it. Everything else will fall into place, but just do it.
99.9% of the time, you will not regret just doing what is going to be the best for you. Like, of course, you don't want to be stepping on other people and like doing it at the detriment of other people, but like, you can't be not doing things at the detriment of you for other people,
Exactly.
right? So,
Exactly.
yeah, definitely. And in terms of the program itself, right? Like, from an actual experiential standpoint, how like obviously you've expressed that you've enjoyed it, which I love to hear, but what have you found the most helpful in terms of like the actual, like is it like the support, the community, is it the feedback that you get, like what do you find to be the most helpful?
For sure is the support. Um, because like I said, right, with you being online, there is like, oh, how, like, if I message her, like, is it okay to message? Like, if I ask a
Hmm.
question, is she going to get to it? Oh, if I post like a video on my form, is she going to get to it? But it is the support. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's a food question, whether it's a question on how to work my fitness pal, whether it's a question about the app, being funky, or, if I can't
Tech
do an
problems.
exercise, if I can't do an exercise properly, or if something is bothering me while I exercise, having the support, that you will always reach out and, answer any question, or you will just reach out in general, just to see how you are, just to check in. Because like you offer those different tiers of program, right? So
Hmm.
for us, we do like sporadically check in formally, but we're constantly talking.
Yep.
So the support is always there no matter what. And I think that that is the biggest thing, because the idea of online, some people might think, well, I'm kind of doing it alone, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're not doing it
No,
alone
because
at
I'm
all.
annoying and I pester you all the time.
No, you're not. Stop it. And then,
Like,
another
so was your glute sore again today?
another big thing too, especially for me, a lot of people joke about it as we get older, right? When, like, I remember being in university and they're like, okay, we're going to break off into groups. And you're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. But like our community, the Rise and Thrive, like community groups that we have, like the chats, the little, challenges we have per month, like a
Hmm.
lot of people, like, no one is breaking your fingers to type a message. So there's no
No,
expectation. Like,
no, no,
you're
no.
not putting people on blast in the group. Like, where are you? Why aren't you participating?
Yes.
It's
No, no,
nothing
no.
like that at all. But you're kind of excited to participate. Like, I find myself like, yeah, it's like fun to, like throw
Yeah.
like a picture in here or there, or, like a quick little breakdown of what you've been doing. So the community is really nice, because you don't I mean, it helps in the not feeling alone, but it's also nice just to know that, like, you have resources outside of just your coach. Like, you can reach out to other women
Yeah.
in the community, and they're more than happy to talk to you, more than happy to, answer a question or give you some, opinion on something.
Yeah, and I think that it's nice too just to know, like, even if it's not a direct conversation, just to know people are going through something similar or in a similar place as you, and it makes you feel less like, I think people often internalize, like, oh, how did I let myself get to this point? Or like, I'm not where I want to be, but it's nice to know that like
Mm.
everybody is working on their goals collectively?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I remember I've always been a group, community, group talk, group. But no, it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, I try to just keep it more of like a participate as you want. And, if you want to participate this month, feel free. If not, if you have a question about something, like there's no stupid questions, like just like a supportive and inclusive community. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
If someone was to consider working with me and they were kind of going to ask you like, what would be your referral or your review, what would you tell them in a couple sentences?
Well, right off the bat, it would just be, yeah, do it. I mean, and obviously that's easier said than done. There's so many factors, but just do it. And I think the biggest thing is, like, you'll see like coaches and stuff, they'll drop click the link and we'll get started. And I'll admit it, of course, the first thing you do when you click the link is scroll to the bottom. Where's the price list? Where's the price list? What am I getting? What's happening? And obviously everything comes at a price, yes, but just do it.
Yeah, take the leap. Yeah, and I think a big
Yeah.
thing that people don't really is like when you have a fear of indecision about something like that, they're scared to get on the call because they feel like they're going to be pressured, right? But the way I look at it is like it's just a discovery call for me to get to know you and you to know me and like us to even see if we would fit together to work well together.
And like, I like how you said like that discovery call, because you can only get your questions answered so much by reading an Instagram post or by just
100%.
watching a YouTube video, right? Just use the call as an opportunity to ask all the questions that you want to ask. And don't be afraid to ask the questions either.
Yeah, and I think that even when we did our first call together, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure like we even because you were like, I want to see like what this is like. So we like I shared my screen, I like walked you through the client app, I showed you like how everything is set up. Like, it's intended to be transparent and to make you feel at peace with your decision versus like me trying to trick you into something. And you know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's the thing. I wanted to see how it works. How can a coach coach me from Mexico and
Mhm.
not be here? Like, how is this going to work? So I needed to see
Yeah.
exactly
I
what I
remember
was
you being
going to
like,
be
this is so
doing.
cool.
I'm like, oh my God, you can see everything? And then when I tell people, I'm like, no, I like in my phone, like she sees what I'm doing. And she'll be like, hey, what are we gonna eat some more protein today or what's going
Or
on?
like,
You
hey,
know?
why don't we scale back that in one meal? We don't need like 80
Yeah.
grams of protein in one meal, you know?
Yeah. I remember I was having like two protein. You're like, so um might want to change one of those shakes to an actual meal. And I was like, oh, yep, she sees that. Totally forgot.
Yeah, it's all in good love though to make sure that you're
Of
looking and
course,
feeling
of
your best,
course.
Awesome. Okay, last question I have for you is, on a scale of 1 to 10 rating, what would you rate your experience?
And and in every single phase, I would definitely do a 10, of course.
I appreciate
Like
that.
no problem. I mean, starting in the beginning, working with you, still being like in that keto phase, the yo-yo dieting, you know, 10 out of 10, because even though I was, very restrictive to work with, I was
Mhm.
still, really appreciative of the fact that you respected that and you weren't, forcing me to change
Yeah.
anything or being like,
We made it
well,
work
I
for
can't
where you were at.
exactly. You weren't like, well, I can't give you this because you don't do this. Because that would have just been, abrasive and I would feel like, oh, well, it has to be her way or no way that I don't want to do that.
Yes.
But for sure, 10 out of 10 in every stage of our time working together.
And I think in everybody's journey, there's maybe, especially in the beginning, going to be moments of doubt, but then you get over the
Yeah,
hump and you see it work, and then you're like, okay, I'm back
yeah,
to a 10.
exactly.
Awesome. And last thing here, anything you want to leave the listeners with as like a piece of wisdom from your experience?
I'm breaking. Um,
Put you on the spot.
honestly, oh my God, here we go. No, just it's harder than it's harder to do it obviously than saying it. The whole invest in yourself.
Hmm.
But if and of course the whole idea of investing in yourself, it is different for a lot of people. And you're very accommodating in how to make it work for a lot of people. You don't have to, get the ultimate and omega, deal to work with you. You take the time to, really respect where your clients are at in their lives and what they are capable of doing for themselves. So take the time to invest in yourself, whatever that looks like. It will help tenfold in every stage of your life. And, I see it from starting with you 5 years ago when I was 20 something and now at 33, I don't do math. So
So like
it's,
28 to
yeah,
33.
whatever. No, but seriously, take the time, invest in yourself, invest in working with Sam. It is or it will be one of the greatest choices you make as long as you commit. Commit, do what you can, do the work, do it for you, which will obviously branch off and whether that's for your children, whether that's for, a significant other, it will impact every stage of your life. And I always say to work with her. 10 out of 10, just do it. Just try. Invest in yourself. Give it a go.
Yep, I think that's great advice. And I don't think I've ever made an investment into myself, whether it's fitness, whether it's educational and self development, whether it's even just like time into doing things that I was committed to that I didn't have a return of interest
100%.
on. It's like obviously, like if you're not going to actually show up and do it, that's a different story. But if you are committed, like you're always going to get an ROI, even if it's just a lesson, like a life
Yeah,
lesson, right?
yeah.
So. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course,
And I had
anytime.
so much fun chatting about all of these things. And I think that, a lot of people can relate to a lot of the different places that you've been at different times. And, a lot of us have had many seasons of our fitness journey and have gone through many different peaks and valleys, right? So I appreciate your real, raw, and honest feedback.
No problem, anytime, all the time.
All right, guys, thanks for listening and hope to see you guys in the next episode.
So I hope Melanie's story provided you with some insight and some inspiration. But let's be real, if you're serious about achieving this kind of transformation, the most powerful next step you can take is letting me build you a strategy customized to your body, your lifestyle, and your goals. And then actually letting me guide you through it. If you're ready to get real results that last without the burnout or the bounce back, click the link below and let's chat.